Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. And today we'll be having a discussion about the realities of poverty in Southeast, living below the line as we have termed it. This is something that a hard-necked problem that we, everybody is trying to deal with, and we also are trying to do our bit in this direction. This hour, my guest, a very special guest, happens to be a very good friend and acquaintance of Pan-African media, Dr. Richard Kyei, who happens to be a sociologist, but I'll give him the chance to say a few words about him. So, welcome.
Thank you, Apostle.
Yeah. So, would you just say hello to our listeners, say a few things about yourself for those who may not have seen you in a long, long time?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, as his Apostle said, I'm Dr. Richard Kyei, a sociologist. Actually, I used to be very frequent Pan-African media when I was doing my PhD in 2014, 2015. Yeah, so that's when I got to it. Almost a decade now. Time runs it's very fast. So I went to Ghana, but I went back to Ghana to teach, and then in the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Fantastic. Yeah, but due to family issues, I had to come back, and now I'm more an independent researcher. So I take projects from different institutions, and I work with different universities. And currently we are doing one on Link for Skills, and that is about how to make maximum use of skills when migrants move to the host country, especially Europe and then the US. So and also we are working on another one on youth activism and governance in Ghana.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. So go ahead.
No problem. So I just wanted to say that the last one we finished was on AI. AI in about 14 different African countries. So and then we had to coordinate, and it was sponsored by the Canadian government. So that's more or less.
Sounds very, very interesting. I think I would love to go into this perhaps later on.
Later on. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so for now, from your point of view, how should we understand poverty in a city like Amsterdam or in an area like Amsterdam Southeast? How would you look at that? How would you talk about it,
Yes.
for a start?
Yeah, so I think poverty, once we mention poverty, the financial aspect comes to mind, the economic aspect of poverty, the word itself comes to mind. So I think in situating your question about poverty, maybe it's about economic poverty, social poverty, we can even say psychological and religious poverty. So all these are forms of poverty, but I think in this direction we are referring more to the economic poverty.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Amsterdam Southeast and Belmont specific still lies. Amsterdam, is divided into different sections, and then West Central, but Southeast continues to be an area with the low income residents. So that is how we can say that Amsterdam Southeast, in respect to the other areas of Amsterdam, lives in poverty or is economically not strong.
Yes. Economically disadvantaged, you might say. Okay, so then leads me to the question: why do you think certain neighborhoods, tend to experience a higher level of poverty than others?
Yeah, so I think Amsterdam Southeast, as compared to the other parts of Amsterdam, is young. So one of the youngest in the terms of how long it has been in existence. And actually migrants happen to be one of the first, especially Surinamese, to settle in the area. And we know that once migrants come in, already the problem of migrants, complex situation of migrants itself goes with economic disadvantage, because they moved to South Amsterdam Central has always been there with the Dutch, with the elite and all that. But Southeast, they move in, already they are at the disadvantage in terms of where to stay, what the contacts and networks and all those. So these are the problems for which Southeast faces. And I think it's a city or it's a neighborhood in evolution, I will put it that way. So compared to maybe 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, things are becoming better than before.
Yes.
So still at the lower level, but there are improvements, and that is it means the future is bright.
Okay.
So I think you rightly, I like the way you know express that. Okay, because basically it's your youngest district in Southeast municipality, Amsterdam municipality, and dominated by migrant people of migrant origin, and with their background and situation also, of course, there is an income disparity and disadvantage. So all that together add to the poverty situation.
Yes.
But I see also a turnaround because currently we know from the authorities that Southeast is actually the economic engine of Amsterdam because of the income per capita that is, let's say, being generated over here, especially from across the other side of the metro line. You have all those industries and the hotels and whatnot. So that, I think, it looks promising.
Yeah, so I think that is what the locals have to benefit from.
Yeah.
So as we said, the other side of the metro, you see a lot of industry. I think that is also the city planning, trying to boost Amsterdam Southeast. So there are a lot of factories, a lot of industries, international companies.
Yes.
But if you just have a look at it, and if you have to observe, for instance, a sociologist doing a bit micro sociology, whereby trying to have an understanding of the very petty or the things that are looked over, you just have to take from 7 to 9 o'clock and sit at Boulevard metro station or Hollandrecht metro station or Amsterdam metro station, and you see the number of people who are coming in, and you see how many people who also live here, the locals who are also going out. So it tells you that in terms of employment, the number of people who are employed in those companies are mostly from outside. They are generating the income, but the impact or the number of people they are employing from Southeast are very few, because most of them are international companies. They come in with their employees from outside, and so that is something, I think, the gap which maybe has to be filled and has to help also reduce unemployment among the youth in Southeast.
You said it right. In fact, this particular point has come up for discussion and has been mentioned even among some of the city officials, and they say, well, indeed, the income generation per capita is good, it's great, it stops, but how to make that even impact be felt, and also that economic, let's say, upturn to like affect the locals, those who live here. And like you already said, most of the companies bring in the workers from outside. They recruit people from outside who come to work here and they go back. So that disparity really has to change, hopefully along the line.
Yeah, exactly. I think just as in terms of gender, we talk about quota system. There can also be a form of quota system whereby 30%, 10%, or 15% of the employees have to be from Southeast. And we know the Southeast is also very young in terms of population. And these people can fit in within the industries, and that is a way of also boosting the suburb, the Southeast.
Absolutely. Well, you see that
a lot of looking at it in terms of development, a lot of renewal projects ongoing, and also new construction that are taking place. So there is really some growth coming up. How that will eventually affect the economic outlook in terms of the income levels and the poverty levels, I don't know at this stage. But from your perspective, how do you think that might change the poverty perspective of Southeast?
Yes, so I think now the poverty, in terms of, we talked about infrastructure. So you see housing, and most of these housing are now, I don't know the plan of the government, the executive, the policymakers in Amsterdam, but you see most of the infrastructure are into sales. They are not for renting.
So that's true.
And the prices are very high.
Very high.
And so they are not. It seems they are not targeting residents in Southeast. They are trying to mix up the population so that the dominance of migrants might be reduced. So I think I see more that aspect than just trying to help focus on the residents. So that is one aspect that I'm seeing. And I'm not saying that it's good when there's kind of a mixture of different races and also different people in the same area, trying to bring them in. But also you need to focus also on those who are already in the place, how to improve their standard of living. And I think one of the ways about improving their standard of living is also the education of the young ones. So tackling the educational problems of the young ones, I think that is one way of looking into the future, a brighter future for Amsterdam Southeast, because then they can be able to compete.
Yeah, you said it correctly. That whole thing looks quite tricky, because one of the youngest populations live here already in Southeast, in contrast with the rest of Amsterdam. And also, of course, the poverty issue. And you are talking about how education can help to bridge the poverty gap. But at the same time, we know that the new projects that are ongoing are attracting people with higher incomes. So the mixture, I don't know, it looks to me like it might turn the other way, whereby you might have the people who have the means more in majority than those who have been here for longer and with less income.
Spaces are also, when we talk about space, the spaces are limited. So it depends on the number of buildings they can put up to be able to compete with those who are already living here. And those who are living here are not moving away. So I mean, just there are also a kind of incentive, like kind of push for them to move, so that these buildings, because the problem of poverty, talking about paying of rent, and people have huge challenges with the payment of rent, and there are warnings and others. So these are all forms of stress that can feed into poverty because of low income and the income of the population. So if you are earning an amount and you're using more than 50% of your income to pay your rent, at a point definitely you are going to you may not be able to pay all the time.
All the things that you need to pay.
There can be a point where you may fail in the payment of your rent, and the corporation in charge of rent may not give you the space, because there is that push of trying to get you out and bring in another in. So all these are challenges that are moving on. And you see, recently too, they have taken out so many things that they were covering in terms of the rent, the subsidy. So certain things have been taken out, and these are pushed on to the population. And the population, they are already having challenges with financial pressure. And if the subsidies are taken out, then how do they meet? So these are all subtle ways of pushing you out, because if you miss 2 or 3 months, you're losing your house. So that these are some of the challenges the population are facing in terms of housing and in terms of dealing with their poverty, economic poverty.
So basically what you're trying to say is that for those who are already here, maybe first generation migrants, some of them have raised children, so we must target to help their children to get well positioned academically and economically, so they can have they can be well positioned in society and can earn enough. Otherwise, they might be pushed out of Southeast also, because their parents might be having struggles because they probably don't have high incomes in the first place. So there are issues there. Okay, we'll leave that at that for now, because that's another discussion.
That is true, actually. So I think the education, academic aspect has to be emphasized
very strongly.
And then there's one thing as a parent, something I always argue with the school, the Majesty school, is how academic calendar can be drawn. Everything is on it except the exams period. And then you have on the academic calendar the time where you can pick up your child's report, but you don't know when the child wrote the exams.
Really?
So you have to actually ask, and you have to ask and ask before you can know.
Oh.
So if you just go in and then every day moving on, you see at a point, for instance, immediately after Christmas, the children wrote their exams.
Really?
Parents do not know. Beginning of February, they are going to take their report. You never knew your child wrote an exams in this period,
Really?
but he's taking a report, and then when at the end of the day, it's about the numbers.
Yes.
That's what is there. If your child 10 says, that's what the
Will
teacher
they
is going
tell
to comment
Exactly.
on. The behavior aspect is important.
Mhm.
These are all complementary, but what is there is what is going to count.
The grade,
And
huh?
the grade is
Yeah.
what is going to count. The behavior aspects are just supportive areas that help. But if you don't know the period your child is taking an exam, how do you even tell your child focus at this time to study your exam? Before it was before Christmas. Now it's after Christmas. And immediately after Christmas, children have played another, forgotten so many things. So you need to put the children at a situation. So for instance, I had to ask the teacher for my child. I know already that they had the report. The date of the report taken is there. It means I know the period the exams. So I asked the teacher, "What is your timetable?" So it was then that she provided me with a timetable of that. She has a timetable, right? But she's not because parents are not asking, and so they're not giving. And so she gave the timetable to me to know when my child is taking this. So these are things that the schools have to be aware that already as migrants, there are so many things parents are not having. So if they are not having, and the schools are also not helping them to get, because then what I've realized is everything seems to be very smooth and very normal. Everything taken lightly. But when it comes to decision making, they have to look into the paper and say, oh, because of they will not bring in, oh, no problem issue. It's about what is on the grade that will determine. So the very important thing is the schools have to be giving much information to the parents. Yes, what the children are learning. And also I think as migrants, normally we don't ask because we are not used to asking. It seems we are bothering some people. But I think the Netherlands, we shouldn't take anything for granted. We have to ask and ask and ask. And once you ask, the person is compelled to give you because it's your parent, it's your child. Right. So that is something, as we are talking about improving the education and academic life of the children, schools and parents have to take this into consideration.
Okay, let's look at the structural causes of poverty. So to what extent would you say the poverty is shaped by systems rather than individual choices?
So as I mentioned about my Amsterdam Southeast, how it became populated. So migration background is one point. So because of the migrant background, you have to deal with language, you have to deal with education, the standard of education, even if you have to convert your education to the Dutch level. And you have to also deal with network. So all these are not just an individual issues, these are structural problems. And also for the city policymakers to understand these people, where to fit them. And the other issue is also obviously about residence permit, the right to stay. Because you may have all the qualifications, if you don't have the right to stay, it's nothing. So these are structural factor issues, migrant background, language, residence issues, and also the networks, that's the connections. These are important to be able to address the problem of poverty. It's not about the individual going. The individuals are fighting and doing things, but it's about how the policymakers make policies that fit in, policies to tackle poverty, policies to elevate people from their low status to a higher status. So that is what makes the poverty a structural poverty and not just the individual. Fortunately, individuals are working hard, and I know I see at least some 10 to 15 years ago where parents also migrants did not have much understanding of the education. So once the child got to MBA or fear, he thought, oh, that was the highest level, that was enough. But now you see people of those generation, the first of the second generation, most of them are going back to universities, are going upgrading themselves because they realize that maybe the MBO fear is not enough to get me to the higher level. So these are things that are structural and have to be addressed structurally instead of individually, because yes, now you have a lot of some people who are in higher education, who are in higher positions, because but that is what is the percentage of that. So to be able to tackle the problem in terms of the percentage and move maybe 10% out, 15% out, you need policy, and policy have to come from the city level and also from the national level to address the problem.
Well, I think you said it quite well. Now you spoke of migration, effects of migration, and how the system either hinders or supports anybody with a migrant background. So you may have all the skills or qualifications, but if you come into the system, you don't have the right to work or to live. Already your skills are useless, you can do nothing. So that already will begin to push you into poverty. So there are really a lot of hidden talents, hidden skills that people with good enough background who shouldn't be in poverty but are in it right now because of the structure or the system that they have found themselves in.
Yeah, so I think so that's why migration problem. Talk about migration problem. So we talk about how to tackle the migration problem, because once people come in, it's not that the city has to make policies to ensure that they fit in. Talking about integration, they're able to move within the system so that the city is not having challenges. Because if migrants live well, the city is also
will prosper.
Will prosper or have the benefits. But if there are no policies to help the migrants to elevate themselves, it becomes difficult. So it's something that flows. Someone will say, as a sociologist, not say naturally, but that flows because of the number of people coming in and about the response from the city itself to address. So it's about meeting at a point, getting to that compromise, because the migrants have come in and they came in not because there was a need for them to come. That's how they come. Otherwise, they could have found any other else. But because there was a need at the point for migrants to come, maybe now very less, but the city has to meet in and be able to adjust in a way that the migrants can feel comfortable. And feeling comfortable is not about putting food on the table for distributing food. That is not what we mean by comfort, but structurally making sure that there are policies, for instance, for the children, the schooling policy, for the parents, upgrading themselves, and also motivating themselves in different areas. I know that now there are some stating on also the comment. You see people saying that you are at home, you can come and then improve upon your skills to be able to get a better job. So, and I've seen also some comment where people who are already on unemployment benefit, they are encouraged, especially those in the care area, to come and take certain courses to be able to work. So I think these are policies that are fruitful to be able to elevate them, because once they get there, now they are working with some kind of qualification. In Europe, you always need qualification. You always need a paper. Because I had a friend, an Austrian friend, he said he was a teacher in Austria. He went to the US, he's now working in the tech industry, because there is about show what you have. But in Europe, it's about what is your paper, what is your academic skills or diploma to show what you have. So these initiatives are positive, which I recommend the policymakers, and it has to be very wide, so that different people are not also targeting only those in the middle, lower level, but also those in the higher level have to be targeted so that they can also fit in at the higher level, which is very important.
So what you're saying, in fact, is that looks like the supply and the demand equation of, let's say, the supply of human resource, human labor, and then the policies of the system, the way it's operating, it's not maximizing the potential. It's not taking advantage of the people who are in the system who can maybe offer their skills or their time on the labor market. So there's a little bit of mismatch. It's not perfect. So that's why you might end up having some people who ought not to be in poverty are in poverty because maybe they have skills or they have a background that is not being tapped because okay, they don't have a language literacy, this thing, skills and whatnot, or maybe their certificates are not being recognized here.
Yeah, so
or they're an engineer or a doctor or something. So there's a certain mismatch. So perhaps I don't know how it's being done or whether it's being thought about, but a way to kind of fast track this thing so that people who are here who have maybe certain backgrounds can easily fit in without much effort and in the shortest amount of time.
Yeah, so I think also the problem about the residency issue, because as migrants, once you come in, yes, however you came in, you have to then settle. And the settlement is about legalization, about your legal status in the country. So maybe as migrant, you have to struggle, and then get that legal status because it does not come. The IND does not open the door for everybody. So it becomes difficult. So the migrants have to struggle to be able to stabilize their legal status or their legal residence in the Netherlands, and that takes time. And once it takes time, the human mind has to also process all these things. And at a point in time, maybe you get frustrated, you get stuck. You may have the qualification, but you don't have any interest in developing it after all, because you've worked so hard, you've worked yourself hard, and then maybe you don't know how many years, you get there, and then you are so tired. That process of legalization has drained you so much that you have no interest in maybe going forward again. Then you land up in any other thing. Then you take it up because maybe you studied in English, not in Dutch. After all this period, maybe some people are smart, but very few were in the period of struggling with the legalization, doing some language courses or something to be able to prepare for the future. But that is also not easy. You need a lot of determination to do that. And once you come out of that period of, I would say, hibernation, then you are exhausted, so you go in for anything, and then you settle there. And that is one aspect. The other aspect also is about maybe you got everything and then you enter into it. You have to convert your qualification. And if some people have qualification, but for instance, if you are from Ghana, you have university, that is clear. But if you have polytechnic, it's not clear where it fits in. And then it may put you so down that you have no interest in going that down to come back again. So if your degree is not so clear, it's also one of the challenges. For instance, some people are nurses, they went to nursing training colleges in Nigeria or Ghana, and that nursing training college here, they don't see that nursing training college. They don't know where to put it, so they put it at maybe MBA 1 or 2. And then MBA 1 or 2 is not a nurse, you're a health worker. And so you have to really go through a long process, and you need a lot of determination. So maybe you were put at MBA 1 or 2. You do MBA 3, and then you say you are tired, and then you end up there. So the conversion issue is also one of the things. So the migrants themselves, they deal with complex issues in their lives, which a Dutch person or someone maybe who was born here may not go through. So their situation is complex, and if it is compounded with policies that are not flexible, then it becomes much difficult for them to get out of that poverty. So it continues to be poverty in Southeast, poverty, and also one pattern is that most of those children who do well, maybe they also move because they want to buy a house. They cannot compete with the high income earners who want to buy the house in Southeast. So they have to move out far away. So more or less, these are the structural ways of moving out. So over 20, 30 years, you may find their parents are dead, their houses, the government take them back. They have bought houses outside Amsterdam. And so they have a very long plan, maybe 50-year plan of seeing depopulating the black population in Southeast. And I think it's working in that way.
It is. So clearly
the system is in a way doing its job, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not, the system is not fighting you. No, it's not fighting you. It's just
it's doing its job. Okay. So let's look at how, let's say, this is on a high level, okay, how education, the labor market, and housing policies are interacting to keep people trapped in poverty. Can you relate those three?
Yeah, so I think education, so if education comes with employment, then you are able to have a bit of higher income and be able to rent housing. So we call, what is it? Housing, residential integration, and then we have the academic integration or the economic integration. So once you're able to raise a bit higher, fall into the higher income level, then you can also enter into the higher residential areas because you can afford. But if your educational level is a bit low, and then you are not able to make high enough income, then you have to get back to low residential areas where the rent is also low, and where you find people with low income, and then you stay there.
Among the poor people.
Among the poor people. That's, you cannot even rent a whole apartment, so you see, you may have to rent and those things. So which already Amsterdam has that shortage already about housing. So that itself is there, and then your income, because there are also, I read where teachers and others there are shortages in Amsterdam mainly because of rent. Because of high rent, the teachers are not able to come to Amsterdam to sleep because you have to travel 2 hours or something a day to arrive, and then arrive back early in the morning at 7:30 to be in school. So the rental issue and the adjustment of the income, they have to correspond. If they are not corresponding, and if the rentals are going the housing issue, cost of housing is going high, then it becomes difficult you have to actually be in a certain bracket to be able to afford the housing, the high cost of rent in Amsterdam. So that is how these three are related. So low income, then you stay in the low residential area, and high income, then they can be able to take you out, because if you want to buy a house, they definitely have to look how much you earn, and then they find you the house. So if you're earning high, then you can afford anywhere, and that's how come it's important. For instance, some people have parents who are rich, rich financially, so maybe they have the advantage, stay living in the richness of their parents. But migrants with the background where parents are not rich, then academic is one of the easiest way of entering into it. As Nelson Mandela said, that it's only through education that now you can say the other stars, some become stars, but in his quotation still remains that it's only through education that the son of the gate man can be the head of the organization. So it's only through education is one of the channels. The easiest ways of getting you to that high level.
Okay, so now what role do you think does discrimination or unequal opportunity play in perpetuating poverty?
So just as I mentioned at the beginning, for instance, the industries and then international companies coming into Southeast, and then members of Southeast or residents of Southeast are not getting the chances of entering there, because already the companies come with their employees, and most of them are not from Southeast. So that is one way of perpetuating poverty within this area, because those moving out, maybe the job they are going to do may not be the same as this one here. So if they are giving that quota, I think that is a way of addressing poverty. And also, obviously, because of the skin color, because of how your accent is in terms of your Dutch or whatever, that itself also can be discriminated against.
Yes.
And also because of your color, because of your background, which we cannot ignore, that the background, the color, and then the Dutch you are speaking do not count. They are all factors of discrimination.
Yes.
So you can easily be speaking, and then the person will be saying, I don't understand what you are saying. You know you are speaking Dutch, the person doesn't understand what you are saying.
No.
So already it's a failure for you in your interview or something.
Correct.
Or maybe they pick your interview because, and then there have been studies where, because of the surnames of the people, they are not called for interview. They are not called for. So these are practical discriminatory factors.
Policies.
That eliminate or continue to perpetuate poverty. So these are things that have to be addressed, and maybe sanctions have to be there for employers who go in for who deal with issues in this particular way. And also important is not pushing children, migrant children, into certain low income jobs, because there is that likelihood of pushing migrant children into low income jobs, not motivating them enough, because it's okay, you can just, once you do MBO, it's okay, and then or once you do this, it's okay. That kind of that lack of motivation of migrants, and this comes from mostly also from the schools. Because not being motivated, and as the point I mentioned earlier, not giving all the information, knowing that the parents do not know all the information, and you're not giving it to them to be able to be abreast with what happens in the school. The children are not going to perform do their best, and then that can easily cause. And also we see sometimes they say, oh, it's no problem, you don't have to study, but at the end of the day in the Netherlands, it's what, as I say, it's what your grade that counts. So these don't worry, the kind of those talks, you may take them for granted, but they do have effect. And parents always have some challenges with their children, because the teacher is saying you don't have to worry, you don't have to, and you come home, your parent is saying you have to study, you have to do this, but he's saying, the teacher say, oh, we have exams, but don't worry. So these are things that might not seem discriminatory, might seem normal discourses, but in the underlying factor of these causes have some traits of discrimination in them. And these have to be taken seriously in dealing with poverty.
Okay, so now how do you think, let's say, some sort of early support for families can help in preventing long-term exclusion and also more or less poverty in that sense? I mean, can something be done, some sort of support system for families, like all that we've discussed, the groups, the migrant groups, families, and whatnot, the bulk of the people who we are dealing with right now? You think any early support might be helpful in preventing, them from falling into poverty in the long term?
Yeah, I think the policymakers, they can early support is important. Early support in terms of primary, from the very start, from the primary level of education, from even before the primary schools, from 3 years already, enhance, getting some things for parents maybe to be able to know what is ahead for their children as they enter into the primary schools. So I think this is a way of helping parents to prepare themselves for the future in the system they are going to enter into. And I see that when a child is 3.5 years or so, the city does write to the parents, reminding them that they have to register for their children, the school. So that is, I think, is a step in the right direction, which has to be enhanced and move beyond just writing, but rather taking initiative of getting the parents to enter into maybe more, the parents themselves, giving them some form of formation, some form of training of what the Dutch education system is and what lies ahead of their children, so that they can also know their rights in the school,
Yeah.
and then what their children are going to face when they get into the school. So I think that kind of support is there, and also whereby parents are single parents, and then there should be the support of helping the parents. Maybe now talking about high cost of creche and others, which are also embedded upon the parents. So if these are ways, I know the previous government talked about how to reduce the creche fees and others, but new government has come. So maybe if something that those supports can also be very helpful to parents, and also kind of house support. We're talking about homework support. So I think that also I see some help in the different neighborhoods where going on about housework help and those things, so which are also important. But sometimes also some of the children, they are really, it's housework, it's a group housework, but they kind of need one-on-one kind of housework thing, because once it's a group, this and the teacher who is teaching is not really their teacher in school, and it's sometimes also they meet different children, and maybe the concentration is very low. So that kind of identifying the children who really need one-on-one teaching. And also I know that it's maybe expensive for an NGO to take one-on-one students to do that. So that can also be a way of also, so obviously it's better than nothing. So I mean the housework classes support is better than nothing. And I know also in the secondary schools too, there are some few organizations that help them to do their housework or something of that sort. So that is a way of helping the students, and not because they themselves to talk about the first timers. Now universities, they are talking about the first timers in the universities, that families who have their children for the first time, or the first person to enter into university, which means that the universities even have identified that for somebody to get into the university for the first time, it means that the family has done so much to invest in that child. So it means that, and being migrants, from the very beginning, this kind of support has to be there, identifying that migrants, they are now bringing up their children here in a new place. So a lot of help needs to be invested, a lot of financial help, and also the social workers. So this bringing different experts into the equation to be able to help them with the education and then be able to move out. So for migrants, I think the best way is education. And the support on the educational level, especially also in the secondary schools, where most of them fall out, because the primary school is only Dutch and reckoning, maths, that they are graded upon. But in the secondary school, you are graded upon about 10 courses. And you move into the secondary school, you may have FAVO, you may have HAFO, but you move in, you have 10 courses, you have to plan your studies with a timetable to be able to adjust yourself. But you enter into the secondary school, so that kind of support is very important. That support is what is a bit lacking in Southeast. Because now most of our children are moving into secondary school. You jump into the secondary school, and during my PhD, when I was interviewing, the interviews I did with the second generation migrants, most of them mentioned how they had FAVO, but they dropped to HAFO, because the challenge of the secondary school is different, because as I said, each subject you are tested on, you are graded on each subject. It's not like the primary school. So there's a big gap between the primary and the secondary school, unlike maybe in Ghana or Nigeria, where from the very beginning you are tested on about 10 courses. So you are familiar with it when you enter into the secondary school. But in the Netherlands, you are tested on only two courses. When you get to the secondary school, all the courses are relevant. And it's a lot which you have to really sit down to study and manage your studies. And then because in the primary school, mostly it's only when you have housework that you study. But in the secondary school, you have to really study to go for the exam. So this kind of support, I think, is very fundamental in the transition, especially in the first year, that a lot of support in Southeast is needed. They are doing well in the primary school, housework and others, but the secondary school aspect has to be taken into consideration.
Okay, so now we'll be heading towards the finish. So could you advise, if you could advise,
rather the policymakers today, what would you say should be prioritized in Amsterdam Southeast?
Yeah, so Amsterdam Southeast, I think one is the education, and education tackling from the primary, which I think is important. And also that transition I mentioned about from the primary to the secondary school level. Students, those who move from Southeast to secondary school, there should be a kind of orientation for them, because most of them are first timers in their families entering into the secondary school. There should be a kind of special orientation for them, not just orientation of one day, but taking them along at least for the first year to be able to maintain some form of stability in their studies and also even improve upon them. And the last one maybe is about the quota system for the jobs that are being created around, so that you see more of Southeast in that sense. I think that is a way of boosting the life of members in Southeast.
Okay, so then
finally, what message would you like viewers and listeners to take away with them after listening to you about poverty and social justice?
So I think poverty is a reality. So, and as I said, there are different forms of poverty, but you don't have to fall into all the 4 or 5 poverty levels. It's good. You have to be strong in other forms of areas. So the economic, the social, the psychological, the religious, the spiritual. You need to be strong in those aspects to balance one. You cannot find yourself being poor in all these areas, then you are doomed. So I encourage everyone that you need to get yourself rich somewhere to be able to balance the other form of poverty. And also there is hope at the Amsterdam Southeast. You see a lot of security, tightening of security, and also that kind of moving freely within Amsterdam Southeast. So Amsterdam Southeast has a bright future, and so we should all contribute in making it the better society that we would like it to be. Thank you.
Yes, so you had
it all. I'm sure you have enjoyed this discussion. We've touched on a lot of issues from the highest level to the lowest level, and hopefully you took something away with you from this discussion. Thank you very much. Dr. Richard, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Having you one more time. And we hope to have you again some other time.
Sure.
So one wish you all a very good evening. God bless.